Thank you so much. And my name is Samir Panakalpati. I'm the founder of CPAL and did few other gigs in my life. But I'm so happy to be here to really learn from all of your perspectives and experiences in with AI. So my first question to you, Anjali, do you think the AI will eliminate bias?
Yes, so we currently use AI in three different spaces in talent acquisition. The first is obviously recruitment, which is kind of the obvious one. The second is skills development and learning, because what we're having to hire quite rapidly these days is not necessarily the right skill. So the foundation skill, absolutely we need to hire, but then we need to kind of hire the right mindset because the level of technology change and the level of business change these days is phenomenal. I mean, the COVID pandemic just changed the whole way the business model works. And the third is the automated workforce. So, being a professional outsourcing provider, we have a large automated workforce that is kind of then working concurrently with the human workforce. And I do think that the way AI is working at the moment, it is working really hard to bring a whole lot of diversity and inclusiveness into the way we are operating. So
77,000 full-time placements in last 1 year. That's a big number. Whatever the platforms, tools, process you use that or that have you seen AI eliminates the bias or any other practices have you seen it?
Actually, the 77, it's actually more like 80, is our contractors. We made over 200,000 permanent placements
Wow.
globally. I do agree with Angela in the way that we can use AI in our industry. You've probably seen I've worked all over the world, up in various locations, and I've always seen bias exhibited. To be honest, I would love to say that I think that AI can eliminate bias, but I don't think it can, because obviously AI tends to be built on past behavior. Unconscious bias happens, unfortunately, everywhere. And when your AI capability is built on history, unfortunately, it doesn't quite eliminate it. It helps, but it can't eliminate it.
How far are you with AI implementing in the HR space, dealing with bias and then other factors of the neutrality and focus on the skills, but not on the gender and other things?
If I have to answer that question on bias, can it help eliminating bias? It can. So I know the house is divided between Christine and Anjali, and I will take a middle path. I will say it can eliminate the bias in the processes by because of two things. Like Christine said, we have read in industry that these algorithms are built on historical data set, and if there is a bias in historical data set, it does creep in. So if we are aware of that, if we train our, for example, in talent landscape, our recruiters, in learning landscape, our learning strategists and learning experience designers, then they can be aware of that bias and still apply right human choices.
The perception in the in general public and then the industry perception is AI is nothing but a bots, right? Hey, you know what? We bring more AI. That means you are bringing bots, but not the humans. But I think the other side of the coin, the people predict, hey, you know what? AI really helps to take away those repetitive HR functional tasks so that they can actually spend more time with the employees, the candidates, the prospects. So that brings more human to it. What's your perspective? What's your take on it, Anjali?
So first, AI is not necessarily a bot, right? Because it's a bit more of an intelligent version of a bot. So I think the first difference that people need to understand is that RPA or robotic process automation is slightly different from machine learning and slightly different from AI. We as HR professionals, because we deliver HR service, will never kill the human in human resources. So what we do is we think of it as an augmented workforce. It comes in, it picks up a lot of the heavy tasks, it picks up some of the really mundane tasks, and it's actually freeing up our talent, especially our junior talent, who would have otherwise in the outsourcing world, like taken years to get past copy and paste of data and, just like sifting through CVs, that's what they used to do, right? You were a fresher, you came out of college, all you did was you copied and pasted data, you picked up phones, you answered basic scripts, right? And how many youngsters want to do that today? Like I have an 8-year-old. If you asked her to do that, she'd look at you and like go, "Are you just crazy, mommy?" But So we are able to kind of use that augmented workforce in order to free up the talent to do work that is actually interesting to them. The answer is it's an augmented workforce. We will never ever drive the human out of HR. Societally, we actually want to be more human in HR, and which is why we're taking away a lot of the tedious, repetitive tasks that seem inhuman to some.
As Anjali rightly said, that some of those repetitive tasks are actually inhuman. We don't want the people to perform those, and the current Generation Z, they don't want to do any of those things. I think we lose them in a month if we put them in those jobs, right? I think it's kind of helping AI to extend. We'd love to hear from what's happening in your firm.
Yeah, look, I'm going to totally agree with Anjali on this one, because I absolutely believe that what she described is like the early days of my career. I certainly believe that AI has a place in a lot of sections of what we do in our day-to-day jobs. We have actually used a chatbot called Maya, and we have actually used a chatbot. And what we've found is that, again, referring back to what Anjali said, it's taking certain tasks away from our people, which doesn't impact on the human element, because once those people have been found and engaged, then that's when the human element comes in. Through automation and through AI, you can actually get some really good results. And then also it makes the job, as you've just said, makes the job far more interesting for that person in our business who's then engaging with the people. The relationship aspect is as important, if not more so than ever.
Just going through the number of hires you guys do in a year, and the number of resumes to go through it, from college graduates out to career professionals in engineering. How do you bring the human element while continuing to automate a lot of these processes? I'd be very curious to learn.
As you rightly said, we do receive 1.5 million plus resumes on our career portal. And that's just one source, right? We also have multiple other sources, references that we receive the data set. And our ability to organize this pipeline of data, make it available when we have relevant vacancies, and stay true to both the experience of applicants and also the experience of hiring manager in that process, and be able to get back to everybody. So it's at each stage of candidate experience, the career side, the relationship management, the assessment, every stage we're using AI and technology to help recruiters free up their time and focus more on relationship building or identifying the right talent with right business value.
People predict there's $300 billion dollars of productivity loss for the U.S. companies just during this pandemic alone. It's just staggering if something like this happens, right? I'm talking about how AI can help to deal better of such pandemic and crisis situations for the future ones.
We moved very quickly to work from home. We've moved successfully 95% of our staff to work from home. What we then found was that, interestingly, the productivity levels of our staff at home went up, probably because they were working really, really long hours. The mental health is a question mark. So there's a lot of work that Capgemini is still doing on assessing the mental health of our own people, but also helping our clients to kind of assess what's happening with other people, and especially to try and bring them back into work. In a crisis, people wanted to talk to people, right? And they really wanted to talk. So we had situations where people were calling us, and not because they had a real concern. It was genuinely because they needed to talk to somebody, right? So we had to kind of really change our mindset in order to do that. And what we found is that where we had an augmented workforce, where we had RPA in, where we had the chatbots, so like Christine was referring to the chatbots, where we had the chatbots in, we were able to actually pick up a lot of the work and get the work done, but then also free up enough capacity to allow the teams, so to allow the human teams to spend time in quality interaction.
I don't know about anybody else, but I think I've been working harder than ever. And it's just been insane, to be honest. A lot of people are used to working and having set hours in their day when they get up and go to the office and come home. And now the day starts when you take off your pajamas, or maybe you don't even take off your pajamas. And it can end when you're about to eat dinner and then you go back to working again. So it's actually created this work culture which is non-stop. And that's not healthy. Certainly applications are going to increase as time goes on, as furloughs finish, as job seeker allowances finish, that's going to increase. And that's where this technology is going to be so important, because it's going to be honest, it's going to help stop people like try to go back to justify their job and make themselves even more burnt out. As leaders, we've got to make sure that we keep people on track. And one of the things we've done, obviously we've all had to pivot to being remote. Look at this conference now, wouldn't it have been great to do it in person? But those days have passed by to a certain extent now. And it's one thing that we did, and we took all our training, and in the people business, we have a lot of value in face-to-face. But we've actually managed to create better, stronger relationships, because on video you've got no distractions. You haven't got a fly buzzing around. You haven't got your computer screen flashing up with something. And we've shifted all our training, the entire suite of training. So we have training for every stage of everyone's career in our business. We've shifted it all to online.
So I think one thing that I would like to highlight is this pandemic brought to front the power of human and humanity and transparency and communication. And before this COVID hit us, we were all on the digital pedal, like thinking digital and data is the end all and be all of everything. So COVID balanced that perspective, because in the early entering phase of surviving the crisis, humans got together to prepare data decisions which were not available. AI will be key to our response to business continuity. So we've learned a lot on how unprepared, or unprepared should not be the right word, but we were caught unaware on our business continuity processes, which were very good in old erstwhile manufacturing, but now in the digital organizations. And one of the key learning is how do we get data and decision grids together, which is cross-sectional, safety, real estate, HR, finance, customers, all at one place. So that's one big learning, and we are actually continuously working on it, even though we are getting out of this. Then second is the augmented workforce. Like if we had to shift overnight to remote, what happened to our customer care centers? How can we keep the light on because Schneider is also a B2B player, and many of our employees are actually providing essential digital services to our customers. So how do we keep the light on there? And then pure growth capabilities. How do we digitize the sales team and more and more marketing teams? So some of those key thoughts and augmenting those with AI.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, and thanks for your time.